Good evening. I'm going to call the September 12th meeting of Pickens County Council to order. I want to thank everyone for being here with us tonight as we do the business of the county, and that's exactly what we're here to do tonight is the business of the county. Just want to remind everyone, it's not a town hall or a forum. We will have a time for folks to share what concerns them here shortly, but I just want to ask everybody to be respectful and civil as we make our way through the agenda tonight. We're going to start off by I'm going to ask Vice Chairman Roy Costner to lead us in the invocation this evening.
You'll stand, please. Most gracious and heavenly Father, thank you so much for the blessings that you give us here in Pickens County. Thank you for all the things that we take so much for granted. Dear Lord, we just pray that you'll keep your hand upon us as we do the business of the county. We want to continue to pray for our leaders, both in the local municipalities and state government and at the federal level. And Lord, we also want to make sure that we always continue to keep our men and women who are serving in our prayers to you. Thank you for all you do. We love you so much in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. At this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Kenneth Wayne Keith, who is our September 2022 Veteran of the Month, to lead us in the pledge, and then I'll go through his short bio thereafter. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Keith. Kenneth Wayne Keith entered the United States Air Force on the 29th day of October, 1969 at Lackland Air Force Base in Texas. Coldest I've ever been was actually at Lackland, believe it or not. After completion of basic training, Airman Keith went to Shawanout Air Force Base, Illinois, for his advanced training. Airman Keith then went to Shaw Air Force Base in Sumter, South Carolina, for his duty as an aircraft electrician. Prior to deployment to Vietnam in July of 1971, Airman Keith enjoyed a short-lived home to Virginia. In the woes of war, Airman Keith had duties in Cam Bay, Phu Quoc, NKP Thailand, and the Mekong River, or wherever there was a need for aircraft repair work to be done. Sergeant Keith's final duty assignment was to Travis Air Force Base in California. Sergeant Keith received the National Defense Service Medal, Vietnam Service Medal, Republic of Vietnam Campaign Medal, the Air Force Good Conduct Medal, and the Air Force Commendation Medal. Veteran Kenneth Wayne Keith served his country honorably, and today we show him our appreciation. Thank you for your service. And just a small token of appreciation from our council as well. Thank you. Appreciate it. Next item on our agenda tonight is our public forum. This is a time for the public to bring us things that they find or deem important. Madam Clerk, if you would, please call your first speaker. Also, would like to remind everyone we do have a 3-minute time limit as per our council rules.
Mr. Chairman and members of council, I call Rick Noyce.
Good evening, council members. My name is Rick Noyce, and for the past 9 years, my wife and I have enjoyed living at 220 Rockcrest Road in Cleveland. I'm here to address the South Carolina Heritage Corridor, specifically identified as the Highway 11, the Cherokee Foothills Scenic Highway. Webster defines scenic as providing and relating to a pleasing or beautiful view of natural scenery. Paragraph 3 of the purpose of the proposed ordinance states the Federal Highway Administration recognized the Highway 11 bypass so as to protect and promote America's most outstanding roads. As members of the Pickens County Council, you are stewards of Pickens County, and as stewards, one of the responsibilities is to make defined, conscientious decisions that will help to support the scenic beauty of the byway, not degrade it. Yours is to develop and put in place standards, ordinances, and rules that are to be adhered to not only now, but in the future. This is your charge. Some say change is good. That's not necessarily so, but change is inevitable. It is whether it is warranted, and how the change is managed and incorporated will determine how it will be deemed good or not. To say that nothing can change along the Highway 11 corridor is to dissolve ourselves of taking any responsibility of what will take place in the future. Highway 11 is one of 7 scenic highways in South Carolina. It is a precious natural resource that, as stewards, we cannot take lightly. Once its natural beauty has been disturbed, it can never be recaptured or reclaimed. If change is to take place, then it must be done so with a purpose and diligence, with the stewardship for the natural beauty of the corridor as a primary consideration. To consider anything less would be a dereliction of responsibility of both us and our elected officials to preserve the beauty that God has blessed us with. Members of the council, I thank you for your service to Pickens County. With your diligence and stewardship to comply with the Federal Highway Administration's charge, maintaining the natural beauty of Highway 11, Cherokee Foothills Scenic Byway, your efforts will be recognized for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tommy Stroud. Tommy Stroud. Kimberly Kelly.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Kelly. I was actually supposed to speak in a past meeting, but a storm hit Highway 11, and areas that on county record for over 100 years that had never flooded in this one. Kept me from being here. Trees from cleared land across 11 sped by our waterway. It took a neighbor's culvert out and a chunk of her land. The clean mountain waterways weren't just churned up as we are accustomed to, but they were orange from the raped land upstream. A company out of Spartanburg owns that land. It's 1,100 plus acres that have been cleared and stripped. And the people downstream have stories that I urge you to listen to beyond this 3 minutes. The county questionnaire that posted months ago asked what facades we would like to see in new development, and my neighbors and I literally stood there puzzled. It didn't even have one question about what concerned us most. It is not the color of my neighbor's house. It is not the materials that they can afford to use to side it that worry us. It is the preservation of the state's crown jewel and her waters that we all drink from. We see development encroaching from both sides, Greenville and Oconee. The state laid the foundation for protections in its highway in documented form back in 2014, with suggestions, recommendations, incentives, and more, but they handed that baton to the county. There is an amazing amount of landowners who have come together out of concern, ready to work together to protect, yes, freedom, but also resources. I am not against anyone making a home for themselves responsibly, and I don't know anyone who is. We owe the generations of families before us who protected these resources for us now, and I'm hoping we can repay them by coming together. This council, to my knowledge, has no plans to develop. But that's not the problem. The problem lies in what we do not plan for. Will this council work with landowners, the state, or will we lose on your clock our scenic pictures so glorious that Greenville uses them in their national promotions as our water comes out of their faucets? Will you be the council known in Pickens County history that preserved its citizens' drinking waters while other states right now at this moment are mourning clean waters? When this building moratorium lifts in a couple of months, anything, and I mean literally anything, could be clear-cut and built and
Thank you, ma'am.
lost for generations.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly.
This 3-minute
Thank you.
clock shows the time is ticking.
Laura Westbrook.
My name is Laura Westbrook, and I'm a Pickens County native. I'm here tonight to ask this council to preserve and protect Highway 11. You lose nothing by keeping Highway 11 as is. You continue to collect the same revenues you've been collecting. You lose nothing. I feel certain those who want to develop Highway 11 have shown you their projected estimates, and those are simply guesses. But at what cost? Let me project some of those costs. People love our scenic highway because it's peaceful and serene. Once the landscape is covered in concrete and asphalt, it's just like everywhere else, and they have no need to come. We have clean air and clean water. Once the development corrupts the watershed, where do we get our clean water from? It's not Greenville. We sell to them. What about the wildlife? We have an annual wild boar hunt to keep the population down. What happens when their habitat is destroyed? The boar will move into residential areas, just like the bear. I don't think the green golf greens are going to withstand the pig herd. It's not just the boar. There are coyotes and bobcat, birds of prey and venomous snakes, and bear, all looking to rehome if you develop their land. The county won't simply have increased deer accidents. Your first responders will require training in dealing with wildlife attacks. Your parks will need wildlife barriers to keep children and spectators safe. These are costs for the development along Highway 11 that you must consider. Finally, Pickens County has a green energy bank to offset the carbon footprint. Governments around the globe are already holding lesser governing bodies accountable. What can't be offset must be paid. Developing Highway 11 will result in higher taxes for all to pay for the county's carbon usage. But what if I'm wrong? What if you build wonderful subdivisions and attract the 30-somethings from Greenville County? They like our lower taxes and lower crime rates. They want a mountain home to raise their children. Where do those children go to school? Your school board closed our mountain schools. By voting to protect Highway 11, you lose nothing. By voting to develop Highway 11, you risk losing everything. Please, keep Highway 11 scenic.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Holly Crow.
Good evening. My name is Holly Ann Crow, and I live about 2 miles off Highway 11 in Cleveland on land that has been in my husband's family for over 5 generations. The Highway 11 debate is a very emotional subject for everyone. However, tonight I would like to present facts and research, not emotions. The Cherokee Foothills Scenic Highway, also known as Highway 11, received national designation as a scenic byway in 1997, 25 years ago. A corridor management plan known as a CMP was adopted both on the national and state level. The mission statement reads in part, to protect, preserve, and enhance the Scenic 11 corridor for citizens and visitors to the upstate for both the present and the future. In addition, it states, provide for the use of land in a way that preserves and enhances the corridor's scenic and historic qualities. In speaking of the corridor's future, the CMP warns, the aesthetic value of scenic corridors is easily damaged. On the other hand, a well-thought-out plan that encourages good land use can significantly increase property values and boost tourism for the region. Unfortunately, after the recognition and designation of the Cherokee Foothills Scenic Highway, the efforts to further execute the plan waned. The efforts were revived in October 2013, when a comprehensive management, branding, and marketing strategy for South Carolina's National Scenic Byways was published by the South Carolina National Heritage Corridor and the University of South Carolina. Among the extensive information in this publication is the realization that growth is inevitable, but most importantly, the growth needs to be planned, managed, and executed so that the scenic, historical, cultural, recreational, and natural intrinsic qualities of Highway 11 are preserved. In addition to this comprehensive study, an additional document of design guidelines was published in 2014. This document states, in all caps, "The byway is your responsibility," meaning us, the members of this community, and Pickens County Council. It is time we heed this message, and we act accordingly. I implore every single one of you to take a step back, digest the information provided to us by our predecessors in these documents. Let's seriously consider their recommendations, reestablish the committees, follow in their footsteps. We must protect the absolute beauty of the scenic byway. We must protect the watersheds. We must do it now, because once it's gone, it's gone. I would like to conclude with a quote from Abraham Lincoln: "The best way to predict your future is to create it yourself." I am imploring all of you to please ensure that the Cherokee Foothills Scenic Highway has a future for generations to come, and we become the ones who step up, pick up the pole, and provide for its legacy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dale Castle. Dale Castle. Charles Monroe. Charles Monroe. Gretchen Delameter.
Hello, everyone. I recognize that the outcome for Route 11 corridor is not going to make those that want to have a development or not have a development 100% happy. If I had my way, there would be no development at all, and we would leave the beautiful Cherokee Foothills National Scenic Highway just as it is, scenic. To keep the scenic along the Route 11 corridor, standards, regulations, and restrictions must be put into place and are consistent, enforceable, and adhered to by everyone. No exceptions for special interests, no exceptions for development currently on hold, no exceptions for new development, no exceptions for current business expansions, no exceptions, period. We need to ensure that we have no manufacturing, commercial, or subdivisions built. Homes need to be single-family on 5-acre lots. 1,000 feet on both the north and south sides of the corridor need to be protected. Even with these measures being put into place, we are still removing the scenic nature of Cherokee Foothills National Scenic Highway. If you haven't done so recently, take a ride out into Oconee. What the difference is between Pickens and Oconee, you could drastically see. Our section of the roadway is the most beautiful and most pristine. Folks move and visit here specifically for that reason. I know I did. If you don't take the measures now, we'll lose this beauty. Where now, when you're driving up and down the hills along the highway ahead of you, you see nothing but trees on either side, soon to be full of color with the upcoming fall season. Instead, you'll have loss of nature replaced by man-made structures, pavement, light pollution, and increased traffic. I was so excited when I first moved here with my husband. We knew we wanted to move to the upstate, and when looking at the map, I said, I want to live off of that highway. And we did, seriously. But now my excitement has been replaced with worry and fear that what I sought out is going to be taken away. I trust you have heard my voice and will help in protecting the beautiful neck of the woods. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trent Delameter.
Good evening. My name is Trent Delameter. My wife Gretchen and I reside in River Bluff 1 above Victoria Valley Vineyards. Since purchasing our home 4 years ago, we've been blessed to meet wonderful, caring neighbors that share our pride of the Foothills region, as well as our mutual love and respect for beautiful Cherokee Foothills Scenic Highway 11. In reviewing the proposal for commercial development along 11, the primary common feedback from our neighbors seems to be the lack of specific measurable parameters on what is and is not permissible for construction. Where Gretchen and I live, there are already significant safety concerns along 11 at South Solita Road, including people passing other motorists on the downhill legally and at excessive speed. Our neighbors know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm already anticipating the inevitable motor vehicle accidents if the Aunt Sue's property becomes a campground. Please don't sacrifice Highway 11's rare, exclusive, unspoiled aesthetic by allowing subdivisions, multi-story business establishments, and new manufacturing. These can all thrive elsewhere. Future homes should be single-family on 5-acre lots. Let's insist that we protect 1,000 feet on both the north and south sides of the corridor. And the secret's out on tourism here in the Blue Ridge foothills. Do we really need additional tourism marketing focused here? Let's please ask ourselves that. As this group scrutinizes progress here in our region, I challenge us to take a page from Cashier's North Carolina's book on how we properly integrate future signage with the natural landscape. We owe it to Cherico Foothills Scenic Highway 11. Progress is inevitable, but please, please take the time to pre-qualify what you plan to build, where you plan to build it, what residents' safety is at risk, and what natural aesthetics are sacrificed. Please ask yourself if it truly belongs along Scenic Highway 11. Let's be absolutely certain what building parameters are on the table. I thank the groups for its time and attention this evening.
Thank you.
Emily Gilstrap.
Hi, my name is Emily Gilstrap. I am a long-life resident of Pickens County. I was born and raised here, raised my children here, and I'm retiring here. My ancestors go back generations at Table Rock. I agree with the rest of the speakers here tonight, the majority who spoke at the meetings, and all those in the rest of the county. We want to protect Highway 11, so we want no new manufacturing, no new commercial, and no new subdivisions. Highway 11 is a scenic highway and it should not be commercialized. One post I saw on Facebook that said no new development on Highway 11, and it has so much support. It had 500 shares from people all over the upstate. I do believe everyone is watching us and seeing if we will protect this beautiful gem we have here in Pickens County. I saw Liberty is talking about creating a new seal. And guess what is in the background? Table Rock Mountain. Everyone focuses on Table Rock. It is our symbol and we have to protect it and all of Highway 11. We don't want Highway 11 to turn into Chimney Rock, Lake Lure, that has all this commercialization around it, around Chimney Rock. If you leave it up to the developer, it will be ruined. No one wants to make that mistake in Pickens County.
Thank you.
Randall Gilstrap. Randall Gilstrap.
My name is Randall Gilstrap. I'm a lifelong resident of Pickens County, as well as my wife that just got done speaking. I was born and raised here. I raised my children here, and I'm planning on retiring here. I agree with everyone else about the Highway 11 development that needs to be protected, and that means no new manufacturing, no new commercial and nor new subdivisions. Highway 11 is a scenic highway, and I wish for it to remain that way with no commercialization. This area must be protected for our future generations. Table Rock is an icon all over the state, and it has to be protected and preserved as well as all of Highway 11. We don't want to be like the other tourist places and all that comes with it, crime, pollution, and overcrowdedness. Once it is gone, we cannot get it back. So I say again, no new manufacturing, no new commercial, and no new subdivisions. Keep Highway 11 protected, a scenic highway with no commercialization. Thank you.
Thank you.
Russell Castle.
Thank you for allowing us to be here. I just wanted to address, I'm speaking for pretty much everybody west of Highway 11, and a lot of friends of between my friends and family, we own hundreds of acres down Highway 11. I don't think anybody in this room wants commercialization in this area. That's not what we're here for. I don't think anybody wants that. But we also don't want to be a homeowners association, and we don't want to be dictated on the color of my house, as she said, the color of our roofs, the color of our doors. Some of us own 100 acres, some of us own 50, some of us own 5, and some own less than 5. I don't see how you can limit a man that has less than 5 acres that he can't build anything. He worked just as hard for his 3 acres as we did for whatever we own. I think there should be cooperation between everybody, between the council members, everybody that's here tonight that has a concern about their property. We need to have a say-so. We don't want commercialization, we understand that, but we also don't want to be dictated on what we can and what we can't do. There needs to be some way we can all work together. Let's come to a conclusion. Let's put a stop to this. Let's keep Highway 11 beautiful. Let's keep it pristine. But I don't think you need to be setting limitations. You can ride Highway 11 now from one end to the other. You don't see junkyards. You don't see this horrible sights that you're seeing, because everybody in this room takes pride in what we've done, what we've bought. We've worked hard for everything that we've got. We go to work every day. It's not like this stuff was just handed to us. We take care, we take responsibility for it. We don't want the commercialism, but we would like to be involved in everything in all your decisions. We don't want you to be intimidated by these big lawyers that are going to come in for these people who have big tracts of land that want to sell it. I'm sorry. We're already dealing with sediment, erosion control issues. We don't want that. We're already fighting that enough. It's not that we're coming in here and wanting to fight against you. We just want to work together with you to come to some kind of a conclusion to preserve Highway 11. We've all lived here, my family, pretty much their entire life. Hundreds of years we've owned that land down Highway 11 on both sides, and our friends own other direction as well. I'm speaking for everybody. We want to work with you. We want to come to some kind of a conclusion, but we don't want the commercialism in here. It's just the fact that I don't want to be told you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do that. Some people may not have the finances to do that. It's not that Highway 11 wants to become a homeowners association. We just want to preserve Highway 11 as it is, keep it beautiful like it's supposed to be, and try to put a stop to some of this stuff that's going on. Thank you for your time, and we hope you'll consider everything that's been said here tonight.
Thank you.
Alan Quinn. Alan Quinn.
I'm Alan Quinn from Easley. I'm not going to talk about Highway 11 tonight. I agree with you, but I want to talk to you about something else. We haven't received our county property tax notices yet, but we will very soon. I don't expect to see the amount we pay for the new county road tax or the amount we pay for the new county road tax reserve fund. Before these taxes were passed recently, we knew exactly how much we were paying. $20 per vehicle, period. I've been coming here for the last few months asking that this tax be broken out like the school tax, county operations tax, fire protection tax, library tax, tri-county tax, technical college tax, sewer tax. Now all that is based on millage. I feel that this information is very important for your constituents, and you should ask the administration to make this happen. It would be a simple matter of reprogramming. I hope that at the next scheduled meeting of the whole, one or more of you will put forward a motion to accomplish this. You have the power to do that. Constituents deserve this information. After it all, it's their money you're collecting. If it becomes obvious y'all are not going to do this, then I feel it needs to be a question put to the public, which we can make happen. Thank you.
Robert Lewis.
I'm actually here on the aerial middle matter, so I don't need to speak.
Mr. Chairman and members of council, this concludes the public forum.
Thank you. So next up on our, next up on tonight's agenda is the approval of minutes. I ask for a motion and a second to approve the minutes from August 8th of 2022.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Wilson. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Next on tonight's agenda is the administrator's report. Mr. Roper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to update you on a few matters here and the other members of council. To begin with, I want to address one of the questions that came up in public forum and ask everyone to look on fixingcountyroads.com. That's the website we set up back when council passed the new sustainable funding system for our roads. If you go to fixingcountyroads.com, you can check out the budgets for our roads. You can check out how much has been collected. You can also report traffic issues that you're seeing. And you can also look at where our future paving projects are, where we've paved and where we're about to pave over the next couple of years. Coming soon to that website, and by soon I mean in the next week or two, there's a private web hosting company that has to turn this part of the website on. You're going to be able to type in your tax number and see exactly how much of your tax bill goes towards road maintenance and road reserve. So you're going to see that here in the next couple of weeks come online. We'll make sure we publicize that on social media, et cetera, so that people can answer the very questions that Mr. Quinn is asking and see exactly how much they are spending. So I wanted to note that for you since that question keeps coming up. The other thing is this council passed the month of September, in keeping with a lot of other things going on, as Suicide Prevention Month. In keeping with the things we're doing for Suicide Prevention Month, you'll notice the awareness ribbons that are outside. Anyone's free to take those and wear those to help us publicize the 5 questions to ask. Be the one to ask. Be the one to be there, be the one to keep them safe, be the one to help them connect, and be the one to follow up. Reach out to 988, that's a Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. And also, if you would like to raise awareness on social media profiles, we've provided a social media profile ribbon. You see an example of that on the right. We'll be doing other things this month in honor of council's designation as this is Suicide Prevention Month, but I wanted to point you all to those. Another thing that council did is they set as a goal for this county council and for staff to establish a culture of public service. I wanted to give some good news on that front. We were just recently named, and I've got the award here in front of me, by the United Way as the Pickens County Corporate Citizenship Award, recognizing, you'll see Jessica Barney and Lisa Bryant there accepting that award on the county's behalf, by the United Way for the work we're doing out in the community, the volunteer work, things like our Public Employee Service Corps, which we've started up. So we appreciated that recognition from the United Way, and we are very excited about the ways that we're finding to implement your vision, creating a culture of public service here. Along those same lines, we just had, it's this award here, we just had one of our code officers and one of our litter officers come back from a convention that Palmetto Pride put on, and we were designated this past week. I want to make sure I get the designation right. I just got this award. We were given the Affiliate Recognition Award for 2022 for keeping Pickens County beautiful. You remember our Pickens Pride program and what we're doing with litter control, litter abatement, and public education. So we appreciate Palmetto Pride recognizing us in that way. Also want to update you on our Hiring Heroes effort. As you recall, we are trying to spread the word that in Pickens County you can come work on the most modern equipment in some of the most beautiful settings with some of the best people you can imagine. We're hiring heroes here in Pickens County. We want to recognize them. Later in your agenda tonight, you're considering a resolution for Green Light Month, which is a way of telling service members and veterans that we're supporting them as they transition out of active duty and into the private sector. We're going to leverage that to let service members and veterans, because we know how good workers they are, how study after study shows how effective they are as workers. We're going to leverage that and also do some promotions for hiring heroes in that area. We would love to have service members and veterans come to work for us in EMS, in fire, in emergency management, in those disciplines. You may have also seen in the Hiring Heroes process this past week, members of our EMS staff, our Special Operations EMS staff, were featured at Greenville Drive's game, and they rappelled off the roof of the stadium down onto the field. I saw that and thought that was pretty neat. That's the kind of training you can get in a mountainous environment, but they did a good job of promoting our service, promoting what's unique about our service, and it got some local media attention. So we continue to do that. We're receiving applications and we're adding people on, but we've got more slots to fill, so please tell everyone you know that in Pickens County we're ready to hire heroes. Wanted to update you on wayfinding signage. This is something y'all approved back previously early this year. We had an engineering firm that has to actually design each sign. This is more involved than you might think. But they've designed each sign. They've gone through the preliminary approval process with SCDOT, which took a great deal of time. Mr. Castle, who was just here, works for DOT, and he could tell you about how the signs for DOT are pretty elaborate. But we've submitted those wayfinding signs and gotten pre-approval, and now our official package has been delivered to SCDOT. They tell us they'll turn that around within 30 days, at which point we'll put the actual making and installing of the signs out to bid. We see this going in this winter, kind of the last, we would expect this to be completed by February of the new year, and we'll have all our wayfinding signage. This will include not only finding your way to our local tourist attractions or our local venues, it'll also see, as you see there on the right, include directions to our recycling centers. All of those will be replaced. If you've seen those are looking pretty ragged. And we're taking advantage of this, all that wayfinding signage, through some money that's available to us from Duke for recycling education. We're going to redo the signage in all of our recycling centers. We've been doing an inventory. I think Jamie Burns told me, our community relations manager, that we have over 100 different signs in our recycling centers, including day-to-day some hand-drawn cardboard ones. So we're going to try to come up with some standard signs and install those at the same time, hoping that their wayfinding signage goes in, our recycling signage goes in, and then the next step for us, which we'll come back to you for, is entranceway signs. Those will be the big entranceways as you come in. So step by step through this process. Later on tonight, you'll receive a report from the Solid Waste Ad Hoc Committee. I want to update you on one thing there that's not in the minutes because it was more of an informal discussion with the 3 members of that committee. But what you're seeing there is the recycling brochure that's been online for many years. It's been available to be handed out in our solid waste department. It gives the rules and regulations surrounding what we recycle, what we accept at the dump, those sorts of things. Most of this information, I would say 95% of this information, has been true since the flyers were first printed in 2013. So these are not new rules, these are long-standing rules. But the message that I received from the members of the ad hoc is they wanted to see staff enforcing these rules with vigor to make sure that people are not taking advantage. So if you know, for example, a contractor who is doing renovations of his grandmother's house for the 15th time and bringing us the refuse to our recycling center, encourage them to take that to the main landfill. What we see is a lot of people that are gaming the system, a system that is designed for mom and pop, for brother and sister, for family members to take furniture and things like that. You'll see commercial folks taking advantage of that, which is stressing the system. Same's true with tires. You're going to see that. So if you all as council members get complaints because we're starting to enforce those with more vigor, know that we're going to rely on these long-standing rules, and we're going to do what county council has told us to do. So we wanted to just update you on that. Gentlemen, that concludes what I have prepared for you tonight, but I would be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Roper? Councilman Whitehurst.
We had met, it's been a couple months ago, with our brokers for healthcare, and I think we'd sent them back with a request to come up with a self-funded plan. And I think you told us they'd have 4 weeks to do that.
Yeah, they actually submitted, I can update you on that, they submitted a preliminary plan to me, and I met with them, along with Lisa Bryant with HR, one day last week. The day's escaping my mind, but I sent them back to make some small changes to narrow down some numbers to give you all a better idea, and we anticipate looking at that along with those brokers in next Monday night's meeting.
At the committee of the whole? Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Just wanted to make sure.
Yes, sir.
Other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Sater?
I enjoyed spending that afternoon with the litter control officers last month. I thought they're doing a very good job. When I looked at the budget that we have for the current year, we had 2 officers budgeted with arms, ammunition, and uniforms. When they were hired last year on October last year, I asked the question, when would they become Class 3 officers? And it's nearly a year now. Have they started the process?
They have. We had turnover in the leadership of that department, and then we also had 1 vacancy in that department, which we have interviews this week to fill. The other officer in that department has previous law enforcement experience.
So is he a Class 3 officer now?
He is not a Class 3 officer right now. What we would like to do is get both those positions hired and then look at the process, because they have to go through some things at the academy. It would make sense for them to go through.
So when do you think that's going to happen?
I don't know when that's going to happen. I would like for us to talk a little bit more, quite frankly, about that now that we've had a leadership change in that department. There are some concerns that we have on a staff level that I'd like to discuss perhaps in the committee of the whole setting about what council's vision is for how these officers would act out in public. Are they going to be law enforcement officers carrying guns and making custodial arrests, or are we talking more about code enforcement officers? And while I know that the budget may have allowed for one thing or the other, I would love for us to have the opportunity to have more conversation about that.
You know, I thought it was very clear. I mean, I stated it at the time, at least I did, that they would be law officers of the law. They would have a gun and a badge.
Well, I think that's.
And I've said that numerous times.
I want to.
Not just some code officer.
Sure, I understand, but and you've made that point previously.
And being out there with them, I think they do need to be trained, and they need to be officers of the law.
I don't want to lessen the good work they have been doing as commissioned county constables. You all get this report every week from me that talks about the number of tickets they've written, the things that have gone to court, the fines that have been imposed by the magistrates, the progress we are making with the county constable commission they have right now, and I would just like for us to have a more extensive conversation before we committed to any other course of action.
Let me just ask one more question on that. Are you considering staggering them so they work alternative Saturdays?
We actually, I talked with a couple of recycling attendants just this past Saturday because I was at a recycling station talking to attendants, and that's one thing they request. It's a good question because as we bring this new person on, if we could stagger their shifts, we could probably get more coverage. So it's a good point.
I just want, for a point of clarity, they're not Class 3 officers, but they are currently constables, which does give them some authority and power, but they're not Class 3 officers.
That's
like
right.
we had originally discussed.
No, it's a very good point.
But we did all vote to make them constables.
That's right. So you voted to create the county constable position of litter enforcement officer. Okay. And they're writing tickets and prosecuting cases in court as we speak.
But counsel.
That's right.
Okay. I just want a point of clarity to make sure I didn't miss something.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions?
I would like to clarify something, if you don't mind. We were being briefed again about the inadequacies of the tax bills. And you had expressed earlier that we do document the road funding stuff online. But can you please, just for clarity's sake, because I don't want there to be any confusion about it, explain that there's an elected office that sort of oversees that, and that the IT element of it, the limitations of that, so that everybody is fresh.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. It is true that the tax bills are prepared and printed through work of the auditor's office. We help them on the assessor side. The assessor reports to county administrator to the county council. But the auditor and the treasurer are the folks that are tasked with the preparation of the tax bill and the collection of the tax bill. And so from that standpoint, we can't tell an elected official what to include or not include. What you see on the tax bill right now are the things that are required by law to be included on the tax bill, because the school district is a separate taxing entity. The Tri-County tax assessment comes for state law. The same is true for the library. So you have all these different entities that are taxing, and those have to be broken out. The mistake that I think the citizen is making here is that The road maintenance fund and the road reserve fund is already on the tax bill. Just like every other function of county government, it's in the general operations. People can follow that dollar by dollar, what it takes to run EMS, what it takes to run the rest of county operations, the parks, it's all included in that. So in an effort to give the information that the citizens wanting, without having to spend a bunch of taxpayer dollars reconfiguring a tax bill, we're going to just put that information online so it's at your fingertips, if that helps.
That does. I'd like to try to clarify something else, if you don't mind, just from my own understanding. We've heard lots of folks about Highway 11, and the feedback to me has been pretty diverse and fairly well organized in some regards. I just wanted to, your team is currently working on a revision going into the next CAL.
Yes, sir. We're looking at the information that's been received here and a path forward that would perhaps take into account these different folks that have spoken in order to come up with a document that has the best impact. I think it's important, and I'll take this opportunity to make this point, because I think there's some misunderstanding. For all these years, there have been almost no protections on Highway 11. None. Council after council has come and gone, and no Highway 11 protections have been set out in Pickens County. There are some sign protections. You can't have a commercial junkyard. There's a couple of things that exist, but there's no protections. This council decided they wanted to venture into this and to try to protect Highway 11. And so staff's been working on that to try to get you all documents, listening to the public feedback, to give you all some good things that you can work on. But I don't want it to get lost in the shuffle of the politics of this or the passion of this, that this county council, the 6 of you gentlemen, are the ones that have decided now is the time to bring this up. And I think the citizens have responded with passion, which is welcomed. But yes, we will be giving you another document to look at for the committee of the whole meeting next week.
So some of the feedback to me has been that they're not hearing the same answer from folks up here, that they're being encouraged to be aggressive in their outreach to us because some of us may be afraid of some lawyer or whatnot that's come up here and said big words, or some developer, which I'm only aware of maybe 1 or so developers that have any kind of plans up there, me personally. Can you clarify for me, have you had a big inconsistency in what my fellow board members here have proposed for you to do as a task going into the next CAL? One of us telling you to not do nothing, we're not going to change anything, or is it pretty much unanimous across the feedback that you're getting that we're going to do something fairly strong up in Highway 11?
No, I would say that across all 6 of you, when you've spoken to me, you've instructed staff to come up with something that would provide some new protections.
Meaningful protections.
Meaningful protections is a good way to put that, Mr. Wilson.
And that's the feedback from the, I'm assuming, right, because, that's what everybody has told you. But that's been categorically across the board that we'd like to do something strong and meaningful.
Yes, I think it's uniform, all 6 of you know. Where that line is something that, the process is going to have to weigh out. I know I've heard different opinions on where that line should be, but none of you have advocated to me that the line should be where we are now with almost no protections. You all want some type of protections for this natural wonder.
Right. So the line that you're talking about, it feels to me that the line is because so many folks that have moved here are so adamant that we should protect the properties, and some of the folks that have been here for a while seem to be fairly split on whether or not we should tell them if they can pee off their porch or not, right? The problem here for me is when it comes down to it, it seems to me the dividing line is the U.S. Constitution and protecting people's Fifth Amendment rights for not having their land and the use of their land stripped away from them. That seems to be the dividing line. Am I incorrect in that assumption? Is that whether or not it's a taking or not, is that the area you guys are struggling with the most?
That is something we're struggling with on the staff side, and if I could speak from what I've heard from you all, that's the real dividing line and the debate line that y'all are coming up with. You don't want lessened regulation. You just don't want to exceed what would be allowed by law. That's the whole course of the debate that I've heard from you all. Yes, you're stating that correctly. We want to do what we can to protect, I think someone called it tonight, the crown of the Carolinas or something along those lines. It is a wonder that we have here in this county. I have not heard any council member saying, staff, please protect the rights of this developer or that developer. That conversation has never occurred. You all gentlemen have been speaking the other way. And so you're correct. The line seems to be more the U.S. Constitution, not trying to protect some private interest.
Okay. Because I just want to be clear, it's one of my area is probably one of the more conservative areas of the county, and folks are fairly clear that they don't want to have anybody come and take their property rights away and kick them off their family farm or tell them what they can do on their farm. And that there's, and the feedback to me is it's a slippery slope, to get to the point where, this isn't Pickens County anymore. And so, just if you don't mind, to confirm for me, is there any loud voice and anywhere in the county government that we ought not do anything up there, that we ought not take strong definitive action?
Certainly not from this council, and I've not heard that from any member of staff. In fact, from the very beginning of council setting this as a vision, staff has been excited about the opportunity to place some things into place. So we appreciate your leadership in that.
Yeah, and I appreciate you walking through this with me. I know it seems like I'm sort of being definitive and all, but the feedback that I've gotten is that there've been a misconstruing of what's actually going on the council here. A misrepresentation, I would think, of what's going on. And so I just want to make sure that we're clear, because it's easy enough to take a video here and kind of put that out there so that some of these folks who are so vividly passionate can see for themselves that they may have been misled in some ways.
And to your point, as we go through this process, you have to remember we haven't even had second reading of the ordinance yet.
Right.
We've had first reading, which is technically just the title of the ordinance. We had a skeleton to work with for some whereases. So this process of going through these and weighing different types of regulations is going to have some give and take in it. You all gentlemen, have certainly spoken passionately about your desire to protect it. And so it's my hope that staff's going to be able to give you something you can use.
Part of making the suit.
That's right.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilman Fenster, anything from Mr. Roper?
The thing that I look at lots of times is what's there now that doesn't exactly fit the proper scheme of things. We need to look at how we're going to grandfather in a few things.
Those are all things for sure we will look at, and that is one of the things coming up here on the committee log. So,
thank you, gentlemen.
Any other questions?
I wanted to say one thing since you brought up Highway 11.
Well, I did not bring up Highway 11 for the purpose of the conversation. The question was to Mr. Roper about what direction staff had gotten for coming up with documents for us to work off of Highway 11. That's the reason why I said what I did to Mr. Fenster. This is not a Highway 11 discussion. This is for the administrator's report.
But I want him to be absolutely clear about what I'm thinking, because I remember a year ago, I thought we were pretty clear about those Class 3 offices, and now we're questioning whether we're going to do that.
So
I want to just make sure he knows where I'm coming from.
Councilman Seda, I want to make sure, because of our agenda, administrator's report, the question was asked, and Madam Clerk just stepped out, but the question was asked about the direction staff was asked to go with coming, and if there was a strong from one way or the other, or if there were council members that were saying we want less or whatever. That was where that spirit of that conversation was, and that was a question directly to the administrator. So if you have something for the administrator, that's fine, but I am not here to debate Highway 11 tonight.
I just want to make sure he's clear on at least what I think about Highway 11 as he draws up these plans. But that's fine. If I'm not allowed to speak, I'll respect that.
I'm not saying you're not allowed to speak,
right,
but for the spirit of the agenda, it's the administrator's report.
And the administrator is putting together a plan, and he seems like he's clear on what to put together, but from my point of view, I tend to doubt it. And
if you have a question for the administrator, I won't stop you.
I'd be glad to address your doubts that you might have, Mr. Seda.
The doubt that I have is just the flavor of the conversation we just had, which was that most everybody here wants a residential only Highway 11. That's pretty clear. And how that would somehow be illegal is ridiculous. I mean, we have residential only areas throughout the county.
Mr. Chairman, could you get Mr. Seda to tell us where he went to law school, where he passed the bar?
Mr. Wilson and Mr. Seda both, I'm not here to debate Highway 11 or personal, but I think that you understand the spirit of what we've all heard. We've all heard the same thing. And to the original question that Mr. Wilson had, no one on council has said, no, we want less, or no, we want more, and that was the original question. Now, I guess the question is, do you understand that Councilman Sato wants a plan that has residential only? Is that a correct statement?
Yeah, and the notion that it was somehow going to be questionable as illegal when we have residential streets only throughout the county and the state. It's residential only areas all over the state, and it's totally legal. That's not where the line is. It's not the U.S. Constitution, by the way.
Again, we're not
It's
here to
case
debate
law.
the Highway 11 ordinance or anything else. This is the administrator's time.
But to answer your question, Mr. Chairman, yes, I do understand Mr. Sada's, the passionate position he has taken in this matter as well.
And I assure everyone, we will have plenty of opportunity to argue the words of the ordinance, letter by letter if need be. We're all that passionate about it. We really are. But for the sake of tonight's agenda, it is not on the agenda. So.
And I'll have to go home before midnight.
Amen. Anything else for the administrator before I move on to item number 5 tonight? Committee report. The Committee of the Whole met August 15th, log number 205, an ordinance to establish standards and limitations on future development on the South Carolina Highway 11 scenic byway and matters related thereto. There was no action taken by committee, which simply means we did not come out with a second reading or ready to do anything else with it. Log number 197, 2022 recreation funding recommendations. I made the motion to adopt the following recommendations as amended and to roll the remaining balances over in the recreation funding accounts. Motion was seconded by Councilman Inslee Feimster, and it was carried unanimously 6-0. District 1, a total of $18,503 to Clemson Adaptive and the Nenzequina Compost. District 2, a total of $47,831. Again, Nenzequina Compost. Town of Central Parks and Rec and Town of 6 Mile. District 3, a total of $2,500 to the Pickens County YMCA. District 4, a total of $37,160.25, City of Liberty Recreation. District 5, a total of $45,689.78 to Pickens County YMCA and the City of Easley Parks and Rec. District 6, approved $54,000 to the Dacusville Recreation District. No second is required as this comes as a recommendation from the committee. Is there any discussion on any of that? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. That's unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Log number 198, accommodations tax funding recommendations. I made the motion to allocate accommodation tax funding to the following organizations. The motion was seconded by Councilman Feimster. It also carried unanimously. $4,602 to the Upstate Heritage Quilt Trail, $5,000 to the 6 Mile Issaquena Festival, $10,000 to the Haygood Mill Foundation, $23,000 to the Pickens County Veterans Affairs, $17,000 to the Pickens County PRT, $13,690 to Clemson Aquatics Team, $4,000 to Central Park and Rec Department, and $30,000 to the Senior League World Series for a total of $107,292. Again, no second is required as this comes as a recommendation from the committee. I ask all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. That's also unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Log number 206, solid waste discussion. I made a motion that the solid waste ad hoc committee meet to discuss the requested needs for solid waste. Motion was seconded by Councilman Wilson. It also carried unanimously. Next, under committee reports, would be that solid waste ad hoc committee report. The committee did meet on Wednesday the 24th and Friday, September 9th. I recognize the chair of the solid waste ad hoc committee, Councilman Dr. Henry Wilson, to give his report.
Thank you. Just for the highlights of it, the things that we have voted for after lengthy discussion was to recommend that the full board consider a motion to buy a shredder for $990,000 and some odd change. And along with that, some GPS and grading software to help to account for the actual capacity of the landfill and better manage the placement, spacing, compaction, et cetera, of the landfill. It's a more modern approach. Apparently, we've had some sort of seat of the pants approaches in the past that really haven't helped us maximize and capitalize on the space. And the verbiage that I'm learning is that airspace, the amount of actual, hole you have to fill, and the way that you manage it, the way you compact and shred and treat it, clearly is all money in the bank, when you do it well versus when you waste the space. So those two pieces of equipment appear on the face of it to be very important with respect to long-term and near-term and short-term operations of the landfill. And then we had a third proposal here. We would like to move a discussion about long-term operations activities and have the solid waste leadership team brief the full council in a CAL meeting to better sort of inform you folks on some of the broad decision-making that we have ahead of us for long-term. And when I say long-term, I mean things that will affect us over the next 20, 25 years from an investment and from where we put our garbage. The third thing that goes along with that we didn't vote for, but I'll just brief you very quickly because it's in the minutes here. We'd previously asked for the staff to brief us on the tipping fees and some adjustments to the tipping fees. We had a really, what I felt like was a very productive discussion with respect to tipping fees. And, but we as a group did not vote to put this in front of you this time around. But I think after the next CAL meeting, it certainly would be that we'd bring something back. And if at least to just make some minor adjustments here, so I won't bore you with the details until we have a chance to to have you guys fully briefed.
So if I understand, coming back from your committee meeting, the recommendation from the committee is to spend $1,140,372 on the shredder and the GPS system for the landfill.
And those were unanimous votes coming from the committee.
All right, and that would come from general fund?
I'm going to refer that to Ken.
Yes, it would come from general fund.
Okay. And then the piece of it after that was to have you guys fully briefed in a CAL on some of the moving parts that we have going forward.
Now, since that committee doesn't constitute a majority of council, we need a motion and a second for it coming out of that committee, correct?
I think so. You're correct.
It's four with the chairman is ad hoc. I mean, is de facto a member.
4 or 3?
No, the chairman is per our rules. The chairman is the fourth member of any standing committee.
That's right.
So we had since all three of us were there, then we had a.
So it doesn't require a second.
We had a majority.
Yeah, that's correct. You're all right. Thank you. Thank you for that reminder, parliamentary there.
It's Dr. Wilson.
So, Dr. Wilson, I do appreciate that. So the recommendation coming from committee, it does not need a second, is to spend $1,140,372 from general fund to buy these two items and to add to the committee log, solid waste discussion, future of, tipping fees, et cetera. Any discussion on that?
I just wanted to mention, because we talked about it before, how quickly that money got replaced. And Councilman Whitehurst, you may remember, when we were, I think it was less than a year, right? Where it actually paid for itself. So it seems like an exorbitant amount of money, but the taxpayer gets a return on investment pretty quickly.
7 months.
So we paid for the first one in 7 months.
Yeah, and three neat facts. We had, I think, 1,600 mattresses from SWU. You can imagine a mattress doesn't compact. So the shredder is supposed to be able to handle mattresses. Automobile tires. I mean, there's a pile of automobile tires down near, I think, Augusta that you can see from space. Everybody has an issue with those. So I think they specifically sourced this one because it can handle tires. And they looked at hundreds and hundreds of different shredders. So the ability to do mattresses and the ability to do tires, a relatively strong impact on the way the county can take care of our solid waste. So to me, those are impactful.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 6 on tonight's agenda is council correspondence. The committee of the whole meeting will take place next Monday, September the 19th, 6 o'clock, here in the council chambers of the administrative facility. The next council meeting will be held on Monday, October 3rd, 6:30, in the council chambers as well. Boards and commissions, an information table is set up in the lobby this evening with more information about current vacancies and upcoming openings on Pickens County boards and commissions. If you're interested in serving on a board, please stop by the table or see the clerk to council, Ms. Nations, for more information. Are there any other correspondence that need to be announced? Hearing none, we'll move to item number 7, motion period, new business. Does anyone have a motion or new business at this time? Hearing none, we'll move to item number 8 on tonight's agenda. Consideration of Resolution 2022-23 supporting Operation Greenlight for Veterans. I ask for a motion and a second to consider Resolution 2022-23.
So moved.
Have a motion? Second by Vice Chair. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you, gentlemen. Item number 9, consideration of Resolution 2022-24, recognizing September 16th as Charles Hayward Barker Day. Do I have a motion and a second?
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Wilson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Feimster. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you, gentlemen. Item number 10 on tonight's agenda, consideration of Resolution 2022-25 to designate Ariel Mill as a historic property according to Ordinance 457, Section 2B2. I ask for a motion and a second to consider this resolution.
Motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Feimster. Discussion.
I have questions. This is item number 10, right?
Yep, Councilman Sato.
Is the lawyer was that lawyer here for this reason, or?
Yeah, but we're going to address our questions here, and if he doesn't have an answer, then
Okay,
we
that's
can
why
go
he's
there
here.
because we don't want to.
Okay, so the property is going to be developed into what? Whoever.
I think that would be appropriate with the developer. I can tell you I was at a planning commission meeting just a moment ago, just prior to this meeting, and the planning commission addressed this project. It had originally been approved in December of 2000. Property changed hands, and there were some changes in the plan, and the planning commission asked to review it again. The staff was unsure whether changes were major or minor changes, so the planning commission is going to review this project in October the 10th. That happened just a moment ago. And the project, in essence, is the old Alice Mill on Highway 8, and I think it's Rice Road.
Yes.
And it's going to have, they're renovating the old mill and turning it into apartments, to residences. One of the changes that happened from December of 2000 to now is that the original plans called for 89 senior units. Those senior units are gone now, and they're going to be residential units.
How many units?
I think there are 203, if my numbers are right.
That's correct.
I will tell you that for your purposes tonight, what has been asked of you is to designate it as a historic site. There will be another process in which that council has the ability to approve plans. But I believe Mr. Lewis is here, who is the attorney.
I'm the attorney for the owner, Farpoint Development, or their LLC, that owns this property. And so, like the gentleman said, the project is going to be converted to 203 apartments. And the owners will utilize state and federal historic tax credits and the State Textile Mill Revitalization Act to obtain state textile mill credits for the project also. So those are the three incentives that we normally see in textile mill revitalization or any historic property revitalization. And in addition, the owners are looking for property tax incentives. In South Carolina, the Bailey Bill historic property tax incentive was passed probably close to 20 years ago. It's an enabling statute that allows a city or county to enact an ordinance that allows the county to give this property tax abatement to an owner or developer who has an historic property and spends a certain amount of money, a threshold of 20% of the value of the property. And in exchange for doing that, the city or the county that enacts that ordinance says, we will freeze your property tax rate. So your property tax is not going down, but what it's saying is the tax rate that you have now, the property tax assessment that you have now will continue. In this county, it's a 20-year period. In some counties, it's 15, some is 10.
Council, one of the, our ordinance, and we did enact an ordinance pursuant to the Bailey Bill, which is a state statute, as Mr. Lewis said. Our ordinance provides for up to 20 years. So it's not a requirement of 20 years, but it's up to 20 years, which is a little different than the state statute will allow you to go up to 20 years and fix it in 20 years. But ours doesn't do that. We can have a.
So, Mr. Hendricks, just in the spirit of staying on topic of the agenda tonight,
yes, sir.
This resolution, is it for a tax benefit? Does it bring a tax benefit automatically? Is there?
No. What is before council tonight is simply the designation of this as a historic place.
And does that designation automatically bring a tax benefit from this county?
No, it does not.
That's a whole nother process.
That's right. And there will
It's a two-step process under your ordinance. You first have to have an historic property. There's two ways to get that designation. You could have the building listed on the National Register, that's the first way, or you could designate it as a county landmark, that's the second way. We have applied to the National Park Service to designate this on the National Register. It's really like a three-step process for that. You have to file a Part 1 application, which I've provided to the county, and I don't know if all the council members have that, but it's a very detailed application that goes to the State Department of Archives. And the Part 1, if that's approved, then that goes, it takes it to the next step, which is a state National Register committee that considers it. If they approve it, then it goes to the National Register.
And that process can take until 2023, take a while. Council tonight could designate it as a historic place tonight.
In order for it to be considered a historic place, it needs to either be on the National Register or be 50 years old and have historical significance individually or as part of a local district,
That's
which
right.
you can't argue that Alice Mill is not a historic community.
So council could designate as a historic place tonight. The certification, the preliminary certification would come next, and that's when you get into whether it's going to be a 20-year hold on the taxes and what exactly they're going to do.
But by doing this, and I guess my million-dollar question, does it automatically open the door to say, yes, we're giving you a tax break?
It does not. It designates it as a historical place.
And then there's another step.
And then there's another step. That's
Okay.
right.
I have a question.
Councilman
When you first started speaking, you said that the Planning Commission was going to reconsider this due to some changes.
That's right.
And there was something about there was going to be some sort of a retail area. Now it's going to be like storage or something like that. Does that have any bearing on whether or not it's historic?
No.
Is the Planning Commission's action have any bearing on it? So if the Planning Commission says we can't approve, they can't build, it can still be a historic space and there's no
Yes,
loss?
you can designate as a historic place and it doesn't affect the Planning Commission's decision at all.
Okay.
Other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Satter.
I'm just going to be upfront with you because I know it's a two-step process and I know where you're heading. I'm going to vote no on this, and I want to tell you why. The current assessment is very low now. It's a vacant old junky building. It's abandoned. The designation allows you to invest in the place, make money, capital gain, and rentals. Yeah, your taxes will stay low for up to 20 years, and we haven't determined that yet, but that's the goal. Right? And the reason I'm going to vote no is because I know where we're heading, and I'm opposed to the idea that these buildings get rehabbed, they're rented, they're sold, they draw all these families and all these people to Pickens County who are going to require county services, again, demand county services, and they're going to pay much lower taxes than everybody else. And that's where you're going, and that's what your request is probably going to be. And I just can't do that. I mean, I've renovated 14 houses myself. We're in pretty bad shape. And I didn't get any breaks. Most people don't. You know, that's part of investing and the risk you do. So my biggest issue is I don't want to give the tax break going forward because these families will be drawn here. They'll be demanding service, they'll be using service, and they're going to pay much less than you, because it's such a deal that you're after. So I'm going to vote no on it.
I understand that. I think what everybody needs to keep in mind is that not only are we asking for this incentive, this property tax incentive, and again, we're not asking.
For clarity, are you asking for the incentive tonight or asking us to call it historic site?
We're just asking for it to be an historic site. I was just responding to that statement.
I understand.
I'm just asking that it be declared historic tonight, but in response to that statement, we are getting state and federal historic tax credits. Nothing to do with this county. It's nothing to do with this county. And we're coming in and we're spending $25 million in this county. We're hiring contractors, we're hiring employees, we're hiring landscape architects, we're hiring engineers. That's money that's coming into this county. It's not coming from this county, it's coming into this county. Our law firm has worked on probably 18 textile mill approvals over the past 8 to 10 years. Each one of those, you can go back. You can go to Woodside Mill, easily Woodside Mill, Greenville, any of the mills, Southern Bleachery, any of these mills that are being developed. And you can look after about 4 or 5 years at the spin-off development that comes there. The houses come there, the restaurants come there, the parks come there, the other businesses come there. It always leads to more development in the area. If you go back 15 years in Columbia to the Olympian Granby Mill, the tax base in that area was almost nil. And then these people came in and developed that Olympian Granby Mill. And I, in my partnership, developed part of that. If you look at the footprint of what was there 15 years ago, and you look at the footprint that is there now, it is doubled because of new apartment complexes, new restaurants, new facilities, new housing. It has lifted up the entire neighborhood. There's been many studies done to show a textile mill and the income that is derived from a county before it's renovated as compared to 10 years in the future and the income that is derived at that time. So I disagree with what you're saying. I understand that argument. I've heard it many times before, but it just doesn't happen that way.
But again,
but we're not asking for that tonight.
But could you say going forward that you're not going to ask for that?
I am going to ask for that.
But
you are?
Yes, sir. That's what I'm here for.
That's clear.
This is the first step in the process.
Gentlemen, this is my meeting. And I'm going to be rude, but this is my meeting. And on our agenda tonight is a consideration of a resolution 2022 to designate Ariel Mill as a historic property according to ordinance number 457, section 2B2. That's what we're voting on. Yes, I'm not voting on your tax. I'm not voting on any, and that was the clarification I wanted from our attorney. I understand Councilman Seta's point, and I hear it loud and clear. I really do.
And he just
but I don't want to get stuck on it because that's not what we're voting on tonight.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind.
Mr. Wilson.
So I'm going to vote for it, and the reason I'm going to vote for it is 80% of the folks in my family are lint heads, and if you study the history of cotton production and cotton milling in South Carolina, you'll see that is the history of our region. If you look at the history of Duke, Duke was kind of founded, I mean, Robert E. Lee's nephew, I think it was one of the first civil engineers for Duke, and they went around the South, electrifying the South by electrifying cotton mills. I mean, just we wrote our history in Red Hills and Cotton. And if you're going to designate a place as historic, it should be cotton mills. So many folks have been touched. So many people came down off of Highway 11. My family moved off the Highway 11 area down there onto a mill hill so they could have power in the house and cash money. They didn't get cash money, they just got to be indentured servants. But ultimately, they moved out of those mountains to come to town. So the history of our county is cotton mills. Whether or not I vote for your tax increase or anything like that, it's irregardless of the fact that it's certainly historic. I mean, the McKissicks, just read the history of the McKissicks and the mill system that they generated and the systematic impact that it had on bringing thousands and thousands of families out of poverty. I mean, that's history. The History Museum in Greenville is predominantly a textile history museum. Look at the mural on the wall at Textile Hall. I don't know what they call it now, but it's Textile Hall over in Greenville, okay? So this facility that you're talking about is historic. And whether or not you guys can make money off of it or not, designating historic gives it the recognition of the impact it's had on the culture and social dynamics of Pickens County. So I'm going to vote for it. This is the right thing to do.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Councilman Whitehurst.
It is a historic site. I don't think we can disagree with that. And I'm fine with voting that. It's going to open up some revenue streams for you for tax breaks from the state and federal government. But I'm going to have a harder time doing that on a county level. I can just tell you that. But just so you're aware of that. But as a historical site, which is what we're voting on tonight,
thank you.
It is no problem with that. That's what it is.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 11 tonight, request from staff to reallocate savings from roads and bridges fiscal year 23 CIP trailer purchase previously approved by council to cover shortfall for fiscal year 23 scheduled ambulance purchases.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to apologize and ask if the council would be willing to postpone this for 30 days. I'm not comfortable right at this moment with the due diligence that staff has done for me to come and advocate for this, so I'd ask for you to postpone it 30 days and we'll come back to you with better information.
I have no issue with that.
Can I make a motion to table? Do we need to do that or just postpone it? Do we have to act on it? What's the correct procedure?
I don't think we have to act. We can.
You can motion to table for 30 days.
If you want to do that, that's fine.
Is that, I'm asking,
That's fine.
is that the correct
Yeah,
procedure?
that's good. You do it and I'll second it.
Motion to table.
I'll second that. Discussion on that. All those in favor and table for 30 days, signify by raising your hand. Thank you, gentlemen. Item number 12, public hearing and second reading of ordinance that provides for standards and procedures for devolving surplus county real property related to the more accurate and efficient operation of the county road system. I now gavel us open public hearing. I apologize. Is there anyone that would like to comment on this public hearing? Hearing none. I ask for a motion and a second to constitute second reading of this ordinance.
Second.
I ask for a motion.
Oh, motion then.
Motion by Councilman Pinkston. Do I have a second? Councilman Whitehurst. Discussion.
I have a clarification to understand. And, I read this lovely, flowery legal language. And you're talking, what I understand, we're talking about that part of the road that's not in the county, that's not designated anywhere.
Right.
Is it also, because you didn't mention it here, or the cities? In other words, my question would be, there's some spots out there that could be owned by a city, and they could say, well, we're just going to abandon it and let the county take it over. And I didn't know if that was just an outrageous idea, but just trying to make sure that we're only talking about those little tiny little segments that are not given any designation. But I don't want to leave an open door for a city to be able to say, well, we decided we don't want to do this road, so we're going to abandon it.
Right.
And I'm just looking at stuff that says, certifies that surplus property is not operating part of the county road system. And it's been abandoned. So I'm just asking, am I off base with this? And I could be.
Right. I'll tell you what it's intended to do, and again, this is second reading, so if there's some language that'll make council more comfortable, we certainly want to get that. But we have numerous examples that come into our Roads and Bridges office where somebody will say, well, that's a county road. And we'll research our records and we'll say, well, we hadn't put any asphalt on it in 30 years and we can't see where we've done any work on it forever. And they'll say, well, I've got my plat and it says county road. Well, so then we'll look for a deed, but there's no deed. So it'll be something that just some previous county supervisor years ago may have put some tar and gravel on and suddenly we think we've got a county road. That situation, or where somebody files a subdivision plat and they've got their streets they've built out because the county ordinance says the developer has to build the streets. Well, they've platted out a place that's got a little stub off for future development, and that little stub never got built, and it causes the property owner problems when he or she wants to do something with their land, because it shows that part of their land is a county road. Well, we're never going to build that stub out. So if there's not a deed to back it up, we would like to just give it to the surrounding landowners. If there's a deed to back it up, y'all are the only people that have the authority to devolve it.
I guess just making, if you could tighten it up a little bit so there's no chance of somebody coming back, if somebody just abandoned the road, like a city to say, well, we abandoned the road. And there may be some little stretch where they say, we're just going to abandon it and then just basically give it to the counties. Am I wrong on that? I'm just not reading anything here that...
The way that it would work in this instance is that the county, the person in the county who's allowed to do it would have to choose to do it. It's not something that the city would say to the county, we're abandoning this road, you got to take it. We would have to choose to take it under
Somebody on staff or council?
Well, I was reading how it's set out. I would prefer that the administrator do it with the advice of council, but I'm not sure that that's tight.
I just know how some things get intended for one thing and they end up being used some other way. And I just want to make sure when we're dealing with something as kind of vague as this, that we narrow this down as much as possible. So I'd like you to possibly looking at tightening that wording up a little bit, just for my own personal sakes. Is that something that can be done?
I'd like to mention that Councilman Whitehurst found that the university was trying to claim some property that actually belonged to some
You're run to a restaurant, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good example of a situation that just, I don't want anybody to be able to take this document and use it against us or anybody else.
One of the things that should give councilman comfort is that it's a quitclaim deed, and there are different types of deeds that transfer property. A quitclaim deed says, if I own something, I'm giving it to you. I quit any claim that I have to it, so I give you what I own. If I don't own it and I give you a quitclaim deed, I'm really not giving you anything, and it can clear your title up. That's typically where quitclaim deeds come in. So by this ordinance, we're doing quitclaim deeds, not warranty deeds, where we say, I'm deeding you this piece of property, and I'm saying that I own it and I'm giving it to you, and I warrant it will be yours.
Yeah,
so we're giving you.
That's my point, is being someone comes to us and say, now this is yours.
That's right. That's right.
When I don't want it. That's exactly my point.
We'll make that clear.
Thank you.
We'll make sure there's a backflow valve in there so that it only goes one.
You understand? It's
Yes,
not,
sir,
that
I do.
side's not the one I'm worried about.
Do clearly.
Other comments or discussion?
I have some questions.
Councilman Seda.
How many roads are in dispute like this now?
No idea. I can tell you it comes up at least monthly, sometimes more frequently than that. And sometimes it comes up to where, like a typical landowner will say to you, hey, if that's a county road, y'all get out there and pave it. Otherwise, I'm about to plant a garden. That's the conversations that's coming up. But it comes up frequently.
So it talks about the process to give the road back to the owners. It says one person on the road could request it? It says one adjacent landowner?
Yeah, one adjacent landowner.
Okay,
could
it says county roads and bridges director can start the process?
That's right.
Or other interested persons. So.
Right.
Okay, so let me just throw this at you. There's a road that's in dispute. The county says it doesn't own it, doesn't want to maintain it. One of the owners on the road, or a few of the owners, says that the county owns it and has to maintain it. What happens under this now?
Well,
the roads and bridges director could just say, sorry, we're giving it to you.
So they're not going to give it to somebody that won't accept it. They can't do that. Like, you can't just deed something to somebody and make them take it. So it would only be the landowner that asked, hey, give me that section. So
okay,
that's
so
the way
there's
that's
10 landowners, and there's 2 of them that this is what's going to happen. You're going to have some landowners that say it's a county road and you need to maintain it. County's going to say it's not our road, we're not going to maintain it.
Right.
Now those landowners are going to be all over the place in what to do. What's going to happen at that point?
At that point, the ones that want their land cleared of any cloud to the title are going to get a deed that clears the county's.
So there'll be sections of that road that will be gifted to them,
Right.
or given to them.
Right.
Okay.
Stuff adjacent to them.
Well, and one thing Councilman said is that when a deed is granted, you have to have an acceptance, is what
So
Administrator Roper is saying.
Some of them may not accept it.
But one of the other things is if there is a deeded road there's a different situation. If a person deeds a road to the county and we took that road, then you have to go through a state process to get to give that property away, to close that road.
What's going to happen is, and what I'm afraid of, and why I'm probably not going to vote for this, is we're going to get stuck in the middle of this, because I've been stuck into the middle of these before, where a person says, I know that this is a county road, and you guys are saying, no, it's not. And then you're going to move on that against what this person wants to try to give it away to the people around them.
Well,
and that's going to put us in the middle.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I can address one of the other things that we're working on right now that council asked me to work on a couple of meetings ago, and we made some progress on it, is coming up with a unified county system where we know what roads are ours. Right now, I've seen different reports over the last 5 years of different mileage of the roads. Now, recently, our GIS folks and our roads and bridges folks have made tremendous strides in figuring out exactly what roads we have. But 5 or 10 years ago, that wasn't the case. And so what we are attempting to do, in addition to this, which is little parcels of roads that need to be cleaned up, that's what this is, a cleanup ordinance. What we're also trying to do is establish exactly what roads we have, put notice out to the public that these are what our roads are, and then at that point, those disputes will go away. So both of these things got to happen. So this is a small part of an overall process.
Mr. Chairman, the only way I think I could vote for this is if we have the council get some final approval on this. Like, I'd like to be able to go out and look at the road and talk to some of the, because I've done that once, and I'll tell you, what was being said to me and what the owners were saying was something different. So unless we get final approval on this, I'm a little weary of it. That's my opinion.
I have a question. There's a road between myself and the vice chairman, and he says, we both agree, it's not a county road. You know, it was a driveway at one time, but then some county supervisor at some point put some tar and gravel down because he knew the guy that lived there before the vice chairman. And he says, you know what, I want that, it's not a county road. And he's the one that files to get, and then he tells me I can't use it. How's that play out?
Well, so there's language in there about it's proportionate to the folks that have ownership along it. Now, we could add language that says you can't landlock somebody through this process. That would be a good suggestion to add to it, because you certainly wouldn't want to create a position where, you know, you told the vice chairman, tough, I got my quit claim deed, you can't come through anymore. So that's a fair point there.
Well, no, you did it to me. I just used that example. That's my big heartburn over something like this.
Well, may I?
Yeah, please.
I think you bring up a good point. Unfortunately, we do need to, and I say unfortunately, we do need to do this in some form, because there is all these little parts, and this is, from my understanding, is people say, listen, you're not using it, can I have it? And I'm fine to give away stuff like that, but to Mr. Sada's point, we do need to make sure we have safeguards in here, and we know, but I get the overall picture. We got a lot of little places in this county. There's one down there that we're dealing with now with the one, and I was telling the chairman here a few years ago, remember that piece of property where they had that road, and there were families on both sides of that road, and some of them wanted the county to have it, and some of them didn't. We can't go down and, hey, well, this 10 feet is going to be the county, the next 10 feet is going to be yours, and the next 10 feet is going to be the county's. We got to have systems in place for that, and I appreciate your effort in doing this, but I think we have to keep digging into covering all as best we can. We know we can't cover everything. And maybe having council have some final say in it, or administrator have some final say in it, may offer a little more protection. Just as a thought.
Because that's really the $1 million question, I think, is how formal is it? Because we could bring each one of these to council and do 3 readings in a public hearing, and that's the reason we don't ever do it, right? It's because it's too cumbersome. So the way the language is now, and again, this is just for second reading, it's got to be the way you all want it. But the language now says basically, after research, if we can't find a deed and the Roads and Bridges Director recommends it, the county attorney would draft the deed, the county administrator could sign it, and then a copy gets filed with the clerk to council so that y'all have a good record just like we do. So that's the procedural safeguards that's in here now, but you know, whatever y'all think is best.
If there's a dispute, what would be the entity that would, hear the dispute? Is that, what, planning commission?
No, there's actually, if there were a dispute like that, and the proper venue for that question to be answered, the proper jurisdiction for that to be answered, Mr. Hendricks knows why I made that distinction, would be the master in equity position that is coming online next year.
Right.
They deal in just this kind of dispute.
Okay.
Vice Chairman. I agree with Councilman Whitehurst. I do think there need to be safeguards in place, but you've got to have something where you can, there's a lot of these situations, you say it happens all the time, where you can just go, okay, look, our ordinance covers that, off you go. But in those instances where there are questions and there need to be those safeguards, I don't think this council needs to be caught up in looking at each individual road and creating an ordinance for that. I think that's just ludicrous. But I think that the county administrator should be the safeguard on that.
Yeah, I think that's the difference between overall governance versus the day-to-day operation.
Right.
When you get down to looking at it at that level. Obviously, if you have a deed for something, it does require a true 3 readings in a public hearing. Something like this, I do agree there needs to be safeguards, but at the governance level, whether that's a report out or whether that's, it may be, hey guys, junior administrator's report. Hey guys, we're doing quick deeds on whatever,
I agree. I like the idea of the administrator making that final decision, but then having to report to us what's going on. So we're at least aware, and if there is going to be an issue, it's going to come up before it gets to you making that decision.
Yeah, something like that maybe.
So it would be appropriate for council to have a motion to amend this by adding the words in A4, where the county administrator, after reporting to council, executes a quitclaim deed. Is that what I'm hearing from you guys?
That's it. I want to make a motion to amend, and I like that verbiage if the Madam Clerk has it.
I'll second that.
Discussion on the amendment.
So he'll come forward and say, here's the list of roads that we're going to make the change on. And that's it. Just report it to us.
No, we then have to say, then you always have the ability to say, I don't feel comfortable with that.
Would there be a vote? Do we have to approve it?
I personally don't feel like you have to approve or disapprove. You have that awareness level, and if we want to take action on it after that awareness level, then that's fine. And if we don't, then we were at least brought in, and that's the governance level is the way I see it, the way I understand it.
So, and I guess I'm just trying to understand the process. He just sends us a report at a meeting? You give it to us at a meeting so we can all see it?
Up to you all, whatever you think.
No, I'm just saying what was the motion?
It was to, after reporting to council, so that
Sends it to us in an email? That's good enough? That's the problem, you don't really know. And then future administrators, it may change. I'll tell you, I know I've been involved in this once or twice. You're going to know about it when those people start calling you after the fact. And I've been there.
So let's make a motion to fix it the way you want to fix it. You're just saying.
Councilman Wilson.
My interpretation of the governance level is if I have an issue with it, then I'm going to say, hey, I don't think I like that so much. Can we table that and look at that during a committee? And then during the committee, we'd tell you, Joe and Bob that live next door told me X, Y, and Z. How are you guys going to address that? If you send it to me in an email, then I'll read the email. Then I will come and I will say, hey, I have an issue with that. Can we get that put into the CAL? If you text me that, I'm going to say I have an issue with it. And then I'm going to say, can we put that into a CAL? If you send me smoke streams, or if we talk on a string on a can, or any of those kind of communications methods, can we keep it simple so that we can stay at governance level? I don't want to do their job. I have a job.
Vice Chairman.
No. I said what I was going to say.
Okay. Other discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, all those in favor of the amendment, please signify by raising your hand. Opposed? All right, now back to the ordinance at hand as amended. Discussion.
I would like y'all just to go back and see if you can't tighten the language up a little bit. And I don't know what that looks like. But you've heard some of the discussion tonight as far as making sure that we're targeting what we need to and we got our bases covered as best we can.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Opposed? All right. Item number 13 on tonight's agenda is public hearing to establish the annual millage rate to meet the budgetary requirements for the county for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022 and ending June 30th, 2023. I'll gavel the public hearing into order. Is there anyone that would like to comment? Hearing none, I will close public hearing. Item number 14 is the consent agenda, and I don't have any items listed on the consent agenda tonight. Item 15 is executive session. I need a motion and a second that we go into executive session for personnel matters, HR personnel, compensation adjustment utilizing funds 1% allocated by council in the 2023 budget, and then for economic development, project Smaller Dog. Do I have a motion and a second that we go into executive session for these items and these items only?
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Feimster. Second by Councilman Wilson. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you, gentlemen.